This is going to be an interesting place where science and consciousness connect, but I would be really doing a disservice to humanity if I didn't talk about it. And my life has been incredibly changed by consciousness and psychic readings over the last probably decade of my life while I've been going through a spiritual awakening. But the last one was so significant. We can't discount what is happening anymore. And that's what we're going to see, is that science is going to have to acknowledge that this kind of thing does exist, that people can connect to something far greater than themselves. The story I have to tell you is about one psychic medium reading that kind of filtered into another that ended up changing the health of my body and the quality of my life significantly. I've had many experiences in my life where science went wrong, and I had to intuitively feel my way through some very major medical issues. And I did successfully because I am also connected. And now I'm just starting to realize just how connected I was all those moments. But 3-ish years ago, maybe 4, I had a meeting with a medium friend here in my city, and she told me that something was going to happen to my niece. And at the time, my mom was sick, and she had just gotten her diagnosis of brain cancer. And I thought she was just reading that energy, that something, she was getting tired and having more difficulty walking. And she was adamant. This was my niece. There was nothing wrong with my niece at the time. So I kind of kept it in the back of my head because I've had many readings with this person, and everything she's ever said to me has come true. Now, mediums and psychics can only read on the timeline you're on, so that's why things can change. But anyway, fast forward a couple years, I was barely able to walk. My knees were always so sore and so swollen, and I really couldn't figure out why. Nothing had changed in my life. I hadn't gained any really major extra weight. Like, I have the traditional, like, I'm obviously a larger person, but my body is used to this. And I would fluctuate, that 10 pounds that most people do in the winter, up and down and up and down, as we kind of here in Canada get a little bit slower in the winter, because for me, I don't like to go out in the cold. So I would go up maybe 10 pounds. But that didn't explain this to me. And I just struggled with this progressive lack of mobility over the next couple of years, to the point that I'm 50 years old now, but I was behaving like I was 70 in terms of how stiff and sore my knees were getting. Couldn't even bend my knees to put my shoes on properly. Really just hobbling around the house like embarrassing. Like, my poor kids are kind of like, what's happening to mom? And then a couple weeks ago, I had another reading with a good friend that I've just connected with. Of course, in true intuitive fashion, when these really important details in life we need to get out, something comes in the way, and my dogs are like, something's triggering my dogs so that I can't tell the story. These things are very real too, and most people will just kind of roll their eyes. But you know what? The landscape's going to look so different in the next decade as to what people believe. So I don't really care what you think. But anyway, I had a reading with this dear new friend of mine who has forever changed my life. And in that reading, she said, you need to look into high fructose corn syrup and get that out of your system, out of your diet. And that hit intuitively for me, yep. So I was like, a wild detective and I was looking for this high fructose corn syrup and all its other million names like a maniac. And it's in everything. Oh my God, it's in buns, it's in cookies, it's in, my favorite was soda. I love soda. Okay, I haven't had any in a while now because there are some healthier sodas though, and I will spend the bucks to get the stuff made of real sugar because that doesn't trigger me anyway. So it turns out the knee inflammation, which I didn't even know was scientifically proven, that this type of sugar causes inflammation all throughout the body, brain in particular too, was the cause of what was happening to my knees. I eliminated it, and after about 5 days, I had full mobility in my knees again. I could completely bend my knees up so that I could reach my shoe, like not hobbling around like an 80-year-old. And of course, my nursing sciencey side has got to do the due diligence of repeating the research, which really it wasn't. It was just me being lazy and thinking, no, I can't give up this. Well, whatever. However we get to the research, this is how it comes. But anyway, I did repeat it again in a true research fashion. Re-exposed my body to high fructose corn syrup, or in Canada, it's often labeled as glucose fructose. And after a day, I started having shooting pains like knives going through my knees again. And almost kind of like not quite to the level, but I definitely was having some mobility issues. So again, I cut it out again. And then exposed myself to it one more time. And sure enough, knees swelled up again. So if you're having swelling and pain, it's not going to hurt anyone to try and do an elimination of this kind in your world, because these sugars, oh, it makes me so mad because these sugars are just cheap alternatives, in my opinion, for these companies to make more money off their products. And unfortunately in this world, because of the economic situation we're in, we are only given the option really to afford these things. Unless you have independent, massive amounts of wealth that you can buy Whole Foods, it's very hard. Because now I'm having to buy these things, pardon me, homemade or unrefined, unprocessed, just for my pure life joy of having a soda every now and then. It's 2 to 3 times the price. So we can't change things unless we, one, take accountability for finding them first. My dog's just big socks. Look at this. And 2, we have the power to say no. We don't want this crap in our food. Stop buying it. Yes, it's going to cost some more. Maybe we have to start baking and cooking and doing a whole lot more food, a whole foods cooking. But my intuitive connected senses know that people's worlds would be forever changed if they just went back to whole foods and got rid of a lot of that crap that's in our food right now. So I really needed to get that story out for someone, because I know this is going to help a lot of people who are really struggling. And my other little thing, like even as a nurse, I would take all prescriptions and all the over-the-counter medicines, but the one thing that has worked the best for me when it comes from inflammation and pain control, you won't believe it. I don't know why my camera's glitching. Castor oil. Miracle. It is just a miracle. Anyway, I hope this helps someone.